Welcome to the Health Made Easy podcast. Health advice so easy, you'll feel more confident about your body, health, and life. And now, your host, Dr. Connie Jean.
This is Dr. Connie Jean. Last week we discussed health span versus lifespan and all the implications of the disease process. I was fascinated with Dr. Bruce Ames and Dr. Rhonda Patrick in their efforts to bring nutrition to the core of health and wellness. I have a degree in nutrition with a minor in health promotion, and throughout my 19 years of clinical work, I found that we as humans are not really motivated by prevention. We're more motivated by fear. So today, I hope to bring some perspective on the area of nutrition because it seems that we're more open to understanding the nutritional implications when it comes to disease. So many of you start to listen when you're diagnosed with a certain condition and/or suspect something may be terribly wrong with your health. And I'm not faulting anyone, as I was the same way. As many of you know, I have lupus, but what most of you don't know is how sick I've been in the past. Almost in my deathbed and hospitalized as the nurses were pumping toxic meds into my veins. It's an experience I want to prevent you from having. So let me discuss a little bit about the triage theory. This is by, as I mentioned, Dr. Bruce Ames, and he postulates that the body has a rationing response to shortages of micronutrients, the vitamins and minerals. And this is evident throughout evolution, that when cells run out of vitamin or mineral, whatever it needs is shunted from the proteins for immediate survival. And this is because Mother Nature intended our body to do two things, either to survive and reproduce. And this happens at a cost though. The proteins needed for long-term health, including those that protect our DNA, take the blow and become disabled, which results in disease, especially as we age. This is because this insidious negative effect over time causes mutations in our DNA, which causes us to develop disease. So it's a complex biochemistry in our body. There's so much more that goes on in your body than meets the eye. And there are so many metabolic reactions that are required to keep us alive. All such reactions need micronutrients to convert or exchange carbon groups to make our complex biochemical engine run smoothly. And Mother Nature doesn't necessarily want you to live to 90 and be healthy, so we need to be vigilant and take care of our biochemical engine in the same way that we do with our car engine, especially as we grow older. So now that we have a background on the triage theory, let's switch gears. It's important to note that nutrition is a muddy science. Nutritional research is murky. And this is because majority of the clinical research is done using randomized double-blind trials. But this is a problem as applied to nutrition because 90% of the population has enough vitamins and/or minerals, and 10% does not have enough. Then the data is diluted. Remember, the funding for such studies are provided by the pharmaceutical industries. Their only motive is to validate the use of a specific drug for a specific disease. Never mind the secondary consequences. And this is because there's no money in nutrition. And such studies conducted by doctors are diluting literature, so it's important to know the facts. So the framework of such research studies needs to be redesigned because vitamins and minerals are not pharmaceuticals. They are an essential part of our biochemistry. While going through school, doctors receive an hour at most or 2 hours of lecture on nutrition. And it's an area that is completely overlooked as they're busy studying various diseases and respective medications and/or surgical interventions for such disease processes. To clarify, we need doctors to know this information so they can treat disease. But when it comes to creating health, you need to make informed decisions for yourself. I believe the medical pharmaceutical system confounds our current situation. as we're experiencing a growing epidemic in our country as we're getting sicker due to micronutrient deficiency. So what's normal? Well, the criteria for defining required amounts for vitamins in research is based on if mice and or people die, and if they have less than sufficient amounts. So the Institute of Medicine sets the RDA, which is required dietary allowance, and ERA, which is estimated average requirement. And even though the ERA is set at 2 standard deviations lower than the RDA, we know that most people in the United States still are not getting enough micronutrients. So how much do we need? Again, research looks at the amounts required to survive, not thrive. So currently, we need 30 different vitamins and minerals. Minerals such as magnesium, zinc, iron, and selenium come mostly from our soil. Zinc is in over 2,000 enzymes in the body, and every DNA repair enzymes require magnesium. And it's a fact that in the United States, over 70% are deficient in magnesium. This is a huge problem. Research looks at specific nutrients to study what causes death and not what keeps us optimally healthy. This is the paradigm that I strongly feel that needs to change. For example, vitamin K is needed for enzymes responsible for blood clotting. This is important, or else if you cut yourself, you'll bleed to death. So blood clotting is the short-term need to prevent dying from excessive bleeding, right? So vitamin K is also a calcium binding protein. And if you don't have that protein, you'll slowly accumulate atherosclerotic tissue in your arteries, leading to heart disease. So no wonder we have an incidence that's rising every year in heart disease. But it takes 10 years or so to occur. And this is why a deficiency in your 20s and 30s may lead to heart disease and hypertension and other diseases in your 40s and 50s. It's also important to note that vitamin K needs to be balanced with calcium and magnesium. And if you're deficient in one of them, then the shunting process occurs again, leading to imbalances promoting disease. So let me give you a scenario. Let's delve further into vitamin K because I think it's an example that most of you can understand. So dark green leafy vegetables contain lots of vitamin K, and it's used in photosynthesis for plants in which it binds to calcium. So vitamin K comes in 2 forms, either vitamin K1 and K2. So vitamin K1 in plants are lipophilic, and this vitamin goes directly into the liver for blood clotting. And after you get enough to clot, it continues to work to pull the calcium out of the blood and prevent plaque buildup in your arteries. And vitamin K2 is the active form. It is not shunted to the liver. This is because K1 is converted to K2 in the liver. So Coumadin, aka warfarin, is an anti-clotting medication, and over 30 million people are on it to prevent clotting. The problem patients on this drug tend to get is calcification in their arteries and higher risk of bone fracture. Such meds without proper supplementation of vitamin K caused higher incidence of bone fracture in mice. So the take-home message is that balance of minerals is another important factor to consider. In this case, calcium and vitamin K. So are we getting enough? Well, studies validate that Americans are not getting enough micronutrients today. Even if you don't have immediate symptoms today due to the shunting of the necessary proteins for short-term survival, as we talked about, are you safeguarding yourself for long-term health and longevity? I see many of you in the sensitive age group between 45 to 60 who are beginning to feel the effects of aging. So ask yourself, do you want to be full of life or live long but have to be homebound due to an inability to function? Your future depends on prevention. So what can you do? Well, 1, eat a diet that is dense in micronutrients, lots of green leafy veggies, nuts and seeds. Remember, a bad diet equals accelerated aging. Nutrient-dense foods are key, not empty calories. You need to exercise. Walk 15 minutes a day and walk fast enough to get your heart rate to go up. You need sleep. Don't push yourself too hard, making sure to wind down at the end of the day to prepare for a restful sleep. Get at least 8 hours a night because this is when you replenish, your cells replenish. 4 is practice time-restricted eating, as I talked about in the prior blog. Eat between 8 to 6 p.m. and don't eat after that. This will help your body focus on regeneration while you're sleeping rather than digesting your food overnight. And 5, take supplements to fill the gap where you may not be getting all your micronutrients. So why take supplements and which one should I take? Well, to me, taking supplements is health insurance for myself. So some of the things that I think you should be taking is fish oil that is purely tested. DHA and EPA balance is important. Vitamin D is a steroid hormone like estrogen. It binds to receptors on DNA and controls thousands of genes, and most people are deficient. Multivitamins. The soil today is depleted and it's hard to get optimal levels of micronutrients from diet alone because of toxic world, or we live in a toxic world. 4 is magnesium for the reasons I mentioned, vitamin K, calcium, and probiotic to kind of have a nice ecosystem or ecology in your gut. And because the supplement industry is not regulated, you want to make sure that your supplier is NSF certified and carries out the raw material and storage standards to ensure that the product is not contaminated. And if you're interested in ordering quality supplements that I personally use and recommend, please email us at info@alkalinewellness.com and we can provide you with a code to gain access into our private portal. You can't get that anywhere else. Thanks so much for joining me today. Please share, like, and follow us and help us to spread the good news. See you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Health Made Easy podcast. www.drconniejean.com